Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Laura Burning. I work here at the Governor's Office of Motion Picture and Television Development. Thank you for joining us today for the Camera Ready New York Roosevelt Island FAM Tour with our state partners at the Roosevelt Island Operating Corporation, also known as REAC. This is going to be a really fun and informational tour. This is such a unique place in the middle of New York City's East River. Before we get started, a few things to know. We're going to be sharing lots of links and contact information in the chat box for REAC, for our office, for our tax office, as well as a few popular locations on the island like Cornell Tech or Freedom State Park and the Kohler Hospital. There will be a brief Q&A at the end of the presentation. Please drop your questions in the Q&A box at the bottom center of your screen. Before we get started with the tour, I'd like to introduce Yoni Boxer, the executive director here at the Governor's Film Office. Yoni, take it away.
Thank you so much, Laura, and welcome everyone. As Laura mentioned, my name is Yoni Boxer. I'm the Executive Director of the Governor's Office of Motion Picture and TV Development, a part of Empire State Development. On behalf of Governor Kathy Hochul and ESD Commissioner and President Hope Knight, welcome to today's Camera Ready New York tour of Roosevelt Island. Our mission at the Governor's Office of Motion Picture and TV Development is to attract the film business to New York State and support and retain businesses that are already here. Our office guides filmmakers through the many programs and assets New York State has to offer, from great strategic tax credits to beautiful locations, knowledgeable and supportive regional partners in every corner of the state, and great small businesses. Over 90% of the businesses that support this industry are small businesses, and we work with the film industry to drive that economic development home. We make sure New York's workforce is as competitive and equitable as possible and market New York State to the industry through one-on-one strategic meetings, as well as larger virtual tours and events like this today. And of course, we work with partners across state government, from parks and subways to highways and prisons, to ensure the state is film-friendly and camera-ready. The governor has made it clear that the film and TV industry continues to be a priority for New York State, and our New York State partners are key to keeping the New York State film and TV industry thriving. To that end, almost a year ago, the governor's office sent out a directive to state entities, acknowledging and commending their great work supporting the film production industry and asking them to build on this great success by proactively marketing state assets, carrying out prompt communications on state film and policies, ensuring efficient turnaround time for film and permits, and ensuring transparency with all reasonable fees, costs, and permits. Which brings us here today. We're great pleasure to partner with the Roosevelt Island Operating Corporation to talk about filming on Roosevelt Island. Thank you to Mary, the REAC's Executive Director, to Chief of Staff Ada, Director of Community and Public Affairs Bryant, and Inspector Coleman, and the entire REAC Public Safety team and the communities on Roosevelt Island that host these productions. Many of you have visited or filmed on Roosevelt Island in the past and know what a unique place it is. The incredible views of the East River, to the modern urban park at Four Freedoms, to the great views of Midtown, great architecture from 1700s colonial views to 20th century brutalist. And of course, the tramway, which is one of New York's unique treasures. Roosevelt Island has hosted dozens of film and commercial shoots, from Clifford and the Big Red Dog to Imaginary Friends, Blue Bloods, Law and Order, The Night Agent, and much more. Of course, we all remember the scene when Spider-Man was on the tram. I'll turn it over in a moment to REAC to tell you all about the island and all that you need to know if you're going to film there. But briefly, just to highlight some of the other ways that the governor has prioritized this industry to ensure the economic benefits of film and TV production come to New York State, is her work with the legislature to enhance and expand the film tax credit program, extending the program for 5 years through 2034, increasing the allocation annually to $700 million, returning the base credit back to 30%, up to 40% for productions that are predominantly based upstate. You can still come to Roosevelt Island for a couple of day shoots, including above-the-line eligibility, and also requirements for productions to create and implement diversity hiring plans with goals for employees and local small businesses. Obviously, if there's questions about the tax incentive program, you can reach out to the information in the chat. Before I turn it over to the amazing team at the Roosevelt Island Corporation, I want to thank our amazing team here at Empire State Development for all they do. Laura and Rania, Skylar, Shaylin, Jerry, Public Affairs, IT, and many more. Thank you all for your hard work. Without further ado, I'll turn it over to our team at Roosevelt Island.
Thank you, Yoni, for the warm introduction. Hello, everybody. My name is Bryant Daniels. I'm the Communications Director for the Roosevelt Island Operating Corporation. I'm joined here today by our REOC Chief of Staff, Ada Morales, and we are thrilled to introduce you to Roosevelt Island, a unique filming destination in the heart of New York City. With its breathtaking locations, rich history, and unmatched versatility, Roosevelt Island is really ready to bring your creative vision to life. And so today in this presentation, what we're hoping to do is touch on what the island has to offer to filmmakers, as well as our permitting process, and how we try to work hand in glove with outside entities to make the experience of filming on the island as seamless as possible. And so here we are, from above, nestled between Manhattan and Queens, as Yoni had mentioned, in the East River. Roosevelt Island offers an unparalleled mix of urban and natural settings. Whether you're looking for dramatic skyline views, quiet green spaces, or historical landmarks, the island delivers exceptional versatility for any production. And to be quite honest, there really isn't anything else like Roosevelt Island, certainly in the New York City area, but I would venture to say anywhere in the continental United States. It's a filming location that marries the modern with the historic. It's part of the biggest metropolitan city in the world, but also not. It's kind of reserved a little bit and out of the way. It has breathtaking city views, as we've mentioned, but also a lot of quiet, placid parks and greenscapes. And so the contradictions here are really the draw and really the attraction. And filmmakers for years have been using this incredible locale to make timeless art, which we hope everybody on this call today will consider doing as well. So we thought it would be good to just start with a brief history of the island because Roosevelt Island's history and the historic landmarks are kind of worth your attention alone. Originally inhabited by the Lenape people, it evolved from a 17th century Dutch settlement to a hub of public welfare institutions in the 19th century, focused primarily on populations that at the time were considered undesirable. This includes prisoners, as there was a penitentiary on the island. There was a mental hospital, smallpox hospital, the ruins of which are still standing today in South Point Park. And the island was first connected via bridge in 1909 to Manhattan. And there was actually at one time, we like to talk about the fact that there was a car elevator that used to connect the island to the bridge. It unfortunately is no longer in operation. But it's just a cool, originally the island was conceived as a place that was going to be car free. And so over time, we now obviously allow motor vehicles onto the island. But for a while, the original concept was it would be very driven by pedestrian and public transportation. And we also have a bridge, that connects us to Queens, and that's the main way on and off the island for motor vehicles at this time. Then in 1921, the island was renamed Welfare Island, and the bridge to Queens still actually has a plaque up that says "Welcome to Welfare Island" to reflect the island's history up to that point. The version of Roosevelt Island you've seen today was really first conceived in the mid-20th century. Renamed in 1973 to honor President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the island now blends historical intrigue with modern innovations. These elements provide a rich narrative backdrop for any production, and so we want to highlight a lot of what this island has to offer through this presentation. And what we're talking about today, the modern version of the island, really, it dates back really to 1976. That's where our iconic Roosevelt Island tramway was first opened to the public as people began populating the island as a new New York City neighborhood. Today, there are approximately 12,000 residents living on the island, which now includes the Cornell Tech campus, which opened in 2017. And you can see it here on the right in the presentation. That's an aerial view of the Cornell Tech campus and the southern tip of the island. So today, Roosevelt Island, again, is home to residential areas, parks, cultural sites, and modern infrastructure. It's easily accessible via tram, subway, and ferry, making it an ideal location for both residents and visitors. And this shot, I think, really kind of gives you a great encapsulation of what the island has to offer in terms of architecture, unique sight lines, beautiful green spaces. It really is kind of a one-of-a-kind attraction in this area, and I would say, again, anywhere across the country. So just very briefly, going into what we are, what is REOC? The Roosevelt Island Operating Corporation is the state authority responsible for the development and maintenance of Roosevelt Island. REOC oversees the island's infrastructure, public safety, and facilitates projects to enhance the community. And now we just want to touch a little bit on some of the previous productions that we've had on the island. And the next few slides, we'll catalog those, some of the bigger ones that have already been mentioned, but then some that also, you might not be as familiar with. So, if you haven't necessarily filmed on the island before, you're probably very familiar with our work, even if you haven't been here in person. We've had a tremendous amount of really impressive film credits to the island. And what we hope that we can highlight in this presentation is the diversity of those credits. It's everything from superhero films to dramas to comedies, romantic films. Everything can kind of take advantage of what this island has to offer. As Yoni had mentioned at the top of this, the iconic scene in the first Spider-Man film with the Green Goblin fight on the Roosevelt Island tram. And then actually, as you can see here on the right, the fight culminates in our smallpox hospital ruins, which there are some restrictions on filming there now, but it is still up, and it is still a wonderful locale that is worthy of your attention. The Bourne Ultimatum, Dark Water, The Other Guys, Salt, Now You See Me are just some of the films that have filmed here in the recent decades. Then going back to the 70s, we have Escape from the Planet of the Apes, Nighthawks, again, very iconic scene on the Roosevelt Island tram, shown here on the right. Brother from Another Planet, Conspiracy Theory. Then switching over to TV shows, Person of Interest, The Blacklist, Gotham, Mr. Robot, FBI, The Undoing. You can see this Blacklist photo here. That's actually a shot taken near the Cornell Tech campus, which has really incredible modern architecture that is a nice contrast to some of the older structures that we have on the island. And then we have the Law and Order franchise, Elementary, The Americans, Jessica Jones, The Equalizer. These have all filmed here, and they've all taken advantage of what we have to offer on the island. And so I think it's helpful now to just sort of highlight some of those more scenic locations that draw people in. And the reason filmmakers come here is because of those wonderful visuals that we have. So this actually is a picture here of the Lighthouse Park at the northern end of the island. That is the Girl Puzzle Monument as well. That was recently opened in 2021. Then, of course, it's worth, I guess, starting with the Roosevelt Island Tramway. According to our tram operator, Leitner Poma, the Roosevelt Island Tramway is the busiest aerial tram on the planet. In 2023, we had approximately 2 million riders, and this year, given the exploding popularity of the tram on social media, we're expecting to have 2.8 million riders. So we have to be thoughtful about filming on the tram because it is a huge part of the island's transportation infrastructure. Filming on the tram is permitted on weekdays only between 10:30 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. or between 8 p.m. and 6 a.m. Those are our off-peak tram hours when ridership is not quite as high as it is during peak rush hour in the afternoon and early morning. Filming is not allowed on weekends and again during rush hour times. And exclusive use permits may be required for full control over the tram cabin, speed, directions, and stopping for shocks. REOC will determine if exclusive use permit is necessary, but we really work very hard to make sure that we are doing everything safely, but adhering to the vision of what the filmmakers are looking for when they try to take advantage of filming on the tram. Switching gears to something a little more historic, we have the Chapel of the Good Shepherd right in the heart of our island. It's a historic Episcopal church located on Roosevelt Island in New York City, built in 1888 by Frederick Clark Withers, and is one of the oldest buildings on the island. The chapel is still periodically used for worship services, and it is open to the public for tours and special events. It is a very popular spot for weddings and photography, and it is also a popular destination for history buffs. Then switching gears, as I had mentioned earlier, the ruins of the smallpox hospital located in our South Point Park. This hospital was originally built in 1856 and closed in 1955. The ruins are located in the southern end of the island, and they're a very popular spot for photographers and history buffs. There are some restrictions on filming regarding the ruins, as I had mentioned earlier, and my colleague Ada will talk a little bit more about that as well. But it is an incredible structure and really visually appealing. Then we have something perhaps a little less visually appealing, but also very useful to filmmakers, Motorgate Parking Garage. The top floor of Motorgate Parking offers scenic views of both Manhattan and Queens. Individual rows or entire sections of the garage can be rented for filming and photography purposes. This actually, the top end of the garage gives incredible 360-degree views of Manhattan and Queens. And so that's where filmmakers have taken advantage of that in the past. And then sometimes you may just want a shoreline shot. And we have incredible visuals on our seawalls. The island seawall provides protection and stunning backgrounds for various scenes, offering views of Manhattan and Queens. This is especially beautiful, the shoreline, with the Manhattan skyline during the cherry blossom season in early spring, which you can see here in the second picture on the right. Again, the marrying of the quiet, scenic look of the island with the hustle and bustle of Manhattan is really something to behold and very unique to what we have to offer here on Roosevelt Island. Then there are a couple of other facilities we just wanted to highlight on this call too that are not controlled by REOC, but we work closely with the administrators at these facilities to enable them to allow for filming shoots. Starting with Kohler Rehabilitation and Nursing Center, the center is independently operated and has different guidelines. But this has been used a lot, especially by medical dramas. They've rented out large swaths of the center for filming purposes. And we always work really well with the crews to make sure that everything Kohler needs from the filmmakers is adhered to. And we're making sure that we're not interrupting with any operations at the center. We just want to make sure that everybody is sound and working together to do the best we can in filming the best we can. Then we have Franklin Delano Roosevelt For Freedom State Park. This is the southern tip of our island. It is run by the For Freedom State Park Conservancy. They've been wonderful partners to us over the years too. And you can see from this aerial shot just how beautiful that state park is. We work very closely with them on their projects. We make sure that our security teams are working closely with them to ensure that everything is being filmed safely and everybody's taking advantage of what that location has to offer. And they've been wonderful and they're very easy to work with. And I believe their information will be included in this presentation as well. So that's a wonderful location to shoot at. And then again, so is the Cornell Tech campus. You can see by the architecture here, it really contrasts well with the rest of the island, but it is incredibly beautiful. It was opened in 2017. The facilities are remarkable. They're very clean. They have a lot to offer different filmmakers visually. And they too have been wonderful partners to us at REOC for many years. We always work closely with them and we enjoy doing it. And so those are kind of the highlights of what the island has to offer you when you're considering locations for your film shoots. There's ease of access and transportation for film crews, the versatile locations. And again, we at REOC are very supportive of anybody who comes and wants to take advantage of what the island's unique mix of urban and natural landscapes has to offer. So with that, I am going to turn it over to my colleague, Ada Morales, who is going to talk a little bit more about the permitting process.
Thank you, Bryant, and good afternoon, everyone. Again, I'm Ada Morales, Chief of Staff at REOC. So now we'll guide you through the specific processes and guidelines for filming on the island, as well as how you can apply for permits to bring your projects to life. So if your production involves equipment beyond basic handheld cameras, such as tripods, props, etc., you'll need a permit. Additionally, if you plan to use exclusive areas of REOC property, if you plan to feature prop weapons, vehicles, or conduct stunts, if you are planning to include actors in police uniforms, or if you plan to request parking for production vehicles, then a permit is mandatory. We can move to the next slide, please. So requests for filming and photography are generally divided into three categories. We have the student or independent projects. These are smaller scale productions, often low budget, but still needing proper documentation. We have the major motion pictures. These are larger projects involving significant setups and resources. And we also have the B-roll footage. This includes scenic shots without actors or dialogue, and is often used to capture the island's natural beauty, for example. We can move to the next one. So this diagram outlines the step-by-step process for obtaining permits for filming and photography on Roosevelt Island. The process begins with the applicant contacting the permits department to discuss potential filming locations. This ensures the requested location is available and suitable for production needs. Next, the permitting department schedules a walkthrough of the location. During this walkthrough, the applicant will have the opportunity to evaluate the site and address any logistical concerns or specific requirements for the shoot. After the walkthrough, the applicant completes and submits the permit application, and I will show you shortly how this application looks. This application includes all the necessary production details such as filming dates, times, and equipment being used. Once submitted, the permitting department reviews and approves the application. If additional information or adjustments are needed, then the team will communicate directly with the applicant to finalize the details. After final approval, an invoice is created and sent to the applicant. This invoice covers any applicable fees associated with the permit. And finally, once the applicant submits payment and provides a certificate of liability insurance, the permit is issued. At this point, the producer will receive a permit to sign and filming can officially proceed. We can move to the next slide. So this is just to give you an idea of how the application works and how it looks. You apply directly through our website using an application called Civic Permits, which is integrated into our website, into our site. The first step is you have to create an account. This will be like your hub for managing all aspects of your permit application. It's pretty straightforward. We can move to the next slide. So once an account is created, you submit a new permit request. You choose the type of project, such as film, photography, special event, and then you provide detailed information, like the dates and times, locations on the island, and the equipment you'll be using. Next one, please. And then last but not least, you upload your certificate of insurance. This standard requirement for liability coverage, and it must list REAC as an additional insured party. For projects involving stunts, prop weapons, or other risks, you'll also need to submit a detailed safety plan outlining the precautions you take during filming. So once these steps are complete, your application will be reviewed by REAC and you'll be notified on any additional requirements. Okay, so this covered the application process. Thank you for your attention, and we're happy to answer any questions you have about Roosevelt Island and how we can support your production.
Great, thank you so much, Bryant and Ada. Beautiful photography there, fabulous locations, and really, really thorough information. Thank you for that. We do have some questions, so why don't we go ahead and get right into it. Do I need a permit from the New York City Mayor's film office in order to film on the island?
So no, an NYC permit is not required by REAC to film on the island.
Got it. Okay. So the next question. Parking is tight on Roosevelt Island. If we are large productions with campers and trucks, where do we park? And is there ever a time where we can leave trucks overnight on the island?
So oversized vehicles are currently directed to park in the REAC parking lot behind Kohler Hospital. For smaller productions involving fewer vehicles, we can arrange parking closer to the filming location. And regarding the overnight parking, that can be discussed with our permits department also. They can accommodate.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. I just want to remind attendees, please have a look over in the chat box. There's lots of links and lots of contact information over there. So if you have a lot of specific questions about some of these specific locations that may not be controlled by REAC, definitely reach out to the folks there directly. Our next question is, are there any off-limit areas for filming on Roosevelt Island?
So yes, as Brian mentioned, the smallpox hospital requires additional approval due to security concerns, and areas under construction at the time of the request will also be restricted.
Great, thank you for that. Ada, we have time for one more question, and this is about the permitting process.
Okay.
What is generally the turnaround time for turning around permits?
So overall, the minimum turnaround time would be 12 business days to standard permits if everything proceeds smoothly, with additional time required for insurance and payment steps. Special events permits require a longer lead time of at least, I would say, 45 days, 45 business days.
Gotcha. We'll squeeze in one more real quick.
Sure.
Do we need to hire REAC Public Safety to be with our production when we film on the island, even if it is at a Kohler or, over on the south side of the island with the park and so forth?
That's a direct question. Thank you. So yes, PSD officers are required for productions that affect vehicles or pedestrian traffic. For productions that involve the Roosevelt Island Bridge or any area that is closed specifically for the project, or if you're using props such as law enforcement uniforms, prop guns, weapons, emergency vehicles, altered signage, or any items that could raise, public concern, then yes, you need to hire PSD officers.
Great, thank you. Well, folks, that is a wrap on today's program. I want to thank so much to our attendees for joining today, and a huge thanks to Ada, Bryant, Mary, and Inspector Coleman and the entire REAC team that keep the island film friendly. We hope you all have a great week and a safe and happy holiday season. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, everybody.